Dobar vam dan i dobrodošli na promociju jedne, po meni, užasno vrijedne i važne knjige. Knjiga Izvanredno stanje, putovanje u uznemireni svijet, našeg gosta, Navid or Navid? Navida Kermanija, malo vas jedan aplauz. Prije nego što počnemo, samo servisna informacija. Razgovor će biti na engleskom jeziku. Autor će jedan mali dio iz svoje knjige pročitati na njemačkom, ja ću drugi na hrvatskom, pa u tom slučaju možete samo slušati kako zvuči taj original na njemačkom, a možete i uzeti slušalice da čujete što to znači, ali mislim da je bolje da kupite ovu knjigu nakon promocije iza u prostoriji gdje su knjige, autor će ih i potpisivati. Samo još da kažem na početku, naravno u izdanju naklade Ljevak Izvanredno stanje uredila je Nada Bernardić, a sa njemačkog prevela Ana Njemec. Thank you so much for your patience listening to this introduction in Croatian. Mr. Kermani, you are a writer, a public intellectual, you are an Orientalist by vocation, philosopher, but I must say that first of all, and which is very important, you are something that I'm finding in this quote of one of your older colleagues, and this is Edward Said, and I found this quote which I think resonates very much with the things that you write in this book and in your other books. Humanism is the only, and I would go so far to say, the final resistance we have against the inhuman practices and injustices that disfigure human history. So it seems that you are, first of all, a humanist, and even though you write about tough places, tough stories, from Kashmir, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, Middle East, in these closer parts, it means Israel and Palestine, and at the end Lampedusa. I find your work distinguishedly humanist and also very optimistic. Am I right in my sense of seeing it?
Well, the words are too nice that I could make an affirmation. So I don't know, it's for me difficult to say yes. And the second thing is maybe, actually I'm a little bit surprised that they sound, or the book seems to be optimistic to you. While writing it, it was not my self-perception, but this is not to say that it cannot be true, because if you write something, it does not have to be, could have a different effect on the reader, and maybe this also counts for the humanism you find in the book. It's also, writing these books or these stories, or writing up. It's really the gesture is to take out sentiments, to be not to show not to show that I'm humanistic or whatever. Just to be very clear, very sharp, very precise, not to show sentiments, not to give the readers the idea what they should think, not to give judgments. If it has the effect on you that it seems to be optimistic or humanistic, I'm happy to hear it. But while writing or while reporting, it was not on my agenda.
I know it's not on any's agenda, but when you meet people, because you are perfectly, and I would say like a lace, fine lace, you're putting together human stories of people that you meet, of different, from different positions in their societies, to different viewpoints that they have and that they give you, and you're putting it into the context of the world we're living in.
Yeah, that seems to be the way it is. I mean, maybe it sounds very naive, or maybe it might sound strange to you, but it's true. You know, I've written so many reports now for all my life. I went out and wrote about forgotten wars or crisis zones, and I have written about natural catastrophes when all the foreign teams went out, you know, after 1 or 2 years, when the real crisis starts, when there's no CNN and so on. And I'm surprised myself, because I do it once or twice a year, and the rest of the year I'm the most isolated and not speaking out person you can imagine. You know, I go to my office and I don't talk too much. And if I go to a pub, I hope nobody speaks to me. And you know, I'm completely different in my attitude. But I've understood that when I go out once or twice a year, I change and I get open and I get curious. And it seems to me that, and always I said to myself, this happens to everyone, but it's true. It seems to be that if I go somewhere and you meet people you don't know at all, you have a situation, sometimes a dangerous situation or sometimes difficult situation, and there's something that they talk to me. Maybe because I'm isolated all the rest of the year and I'm not so used to it, but then they have something, but I wouldn't state it maybe 5 years ago, but I understand that one of my capacities, that's why I'm doing it still, is that I go into a situation and people think that he's someone we could tell him something. And it happens to me. And so it's not, and I'm just writing down these stories, but a big part of the work is not writing them down, but to get people spontaneously to talk this, or give me all this.
And it's seen in this book when you ask some really, it would seem simple questions to those people, but very, surgical, precise, how they react to that.
Well, but you could, I mean, if you imagine you are in a hospital or you're in intensive care, things get existential. I mean, small questions, they blow up big issues. If your father is dying, or if yourself are, and I'm going into this situation, they are existential anyway. So even a simple question, what do you do tomorrow? How is your child? And to have this into the situation, not to talk out, not always to think about all the backgrounds and the political situations and who is fighting against whom, but for example, in another book of mine, I was in Armenia, in Azerbaijan, in Karabakh, where there is still soldiers are fighting each other. And I was standing, and I was together with the soldiers in this, what is it called in English? Where you're under the ground and you trench, yes. And you have time in the trench. I mean, you have really time because nothing is happening usually. Maybe once a day there's a shooting, but the rest of the day it's very boring. And I was there with all the, with these young people, everyone 18, 19, 20 years old. And it just came to my mind. What do you want to do in your life? Very simple question. And in any other situation, the same question would have been somehow very naive or very, they wouldn't raise up anything. But, seeing these young people, 18, 19 years old, as you had it here in the region as well, suddenly it started thinking, what do they want to have in life? And then they started to talk, and I went to the other side of the same, 1,000 meters on the other side. I traveled 2,000 kilometers to come to the other side, and I was really standing at the other trench, and I was asking the same question. what do you want to do? What is important for you in life? And they answer the same, exactly. Even the wordings were the same. And of course, being in a war, you know, it's a situation where simple things get very, very important, very, you know, existential. But it's not the question itself, it's not the wording, but it's a situation which makes the simple things not relevant.
You've mentioned that people basically want the same things in the conflict situation, and in this book you describe a lot of conflicts that are, each conflict has its own story, let's say it. How, you know, dark and black it was, it has glimpses also of hope or of some future coming out of it, even though some of these conflicts are lasting for decades now. I had a situation, for example, last year, my 10-year-old son who started to learn history, they started with, you know, Sumerans, Akkadians, and everything. And he couldn't quite get the thing. And as in our house, we talk a lot about, you know, Syria and what's going on because of my profession. He said, okay, that's the same place. And I said, yes. So can you please explain why on that place where, you know, civilization was born, these things happen today? And then we started a conversation about the whole world we're living in. So you write about and conflicts and religion and identity and human life in all these contexts. But you said somewhere that beneath it all is always, you know, the basic conflict is the social conflict.
Look, I'm a writer, and I studied Orientalistic studies and philosophy, so I'm always looking at culture. I'm always, I mean, that's how I think, and so I tend also to culturalize conflicts. And that is my natural thing. I see, you know, good books, but still, when I travel, if I'm conscious, I see, of course, there's a cultural articulation of conflicts. It is put in words, in cultural terms, like religion, nation, language, and this thing. But beyond it, wherever I went, it was the question of, you know, the social issue was, if people, it was lying, you know, but it's difficult to express it this way, because then they cannot target the other one. They would have to think about their own state, their own society. You know, to put it in a cultural way means you can blame the other one. You can say he's responsible because he's different to oneself. And so one has to take the vocabulary of a conflict seriously. So if they speak about Islam, one has to analyze it and what they're saying, and so I'm taking it seriously. But also to see how it started. So if you, for example, take the Syrian conflict, the Syrian revolution, which was in the beginning a revolution for freedom, for tolerance, for secularism. It didn't start as a war. It was a peaceful, for 8 months, it was a peaceful march for liberty. So one can say, wow, they had all this idea in mind, but of course, below this idea, there was a big social conflict in Syria. You had a liberalization of economy, so a few new elite emerged, and the countryside, the farmers, the peasants, which was mainly Sunni, because that's where they live, they were, you know, they went down socially. So it's not that that was below this kind of fighting for ideas. So it's not to negate the importance of these ideas, but if there had not been this big social shift, that the countryside has a feeling that they are not, that they get poorer, and there's a new elite emerging with new cars, it's not only they're getting poorer, but others get richer, and they show their new products. So of course this comes together, and then it comes to an explosion, of course.
with that what you said, we are witnessing something also in our part of the world, which is Europe. But I think before we continue this conversation, within all this stratification of conflicts and roots and manifestations, there is something which is to all of us most painful, and that is suffering. And I would suggest maybe, I don't know, would you read this part or shall I read this part from the hospital in Syria, which is called the Intensive Care Unit. It's from the chapter called On the Doors of Hell, talking about Syrian conflict.
Yeah, maybe I just read a few lines so you get the sound of the German.
And then I will then read the last part.
Yeah, maybe I just say a word about the situation. This was in 2012 in Syria. When I traveled to Damascus. Damascus seemed to be still in a normal state. There was no war in Damascus, but as a foreigner, you could not get out of the center of town because there were these blocks, and you just heard it. You were just hearing it, but you could not go out. So the journalists who came, they went to Damascus and they saw a normal life. I mean, weddings and restaurants and bars and so on. But the people of Damascus, they lived in the outskirts and they worked in the center. So the war was only 10 minutes away, or 50 minutes away by car. And so the situation now, which I only read a few lines and then we listen to it in Croatian, is describing how I, together with a photographer, I get out of the main center and go to one of the suburbs where war has been taking place. Kai und ich verabreden uns mit einem Fahrer, der uns an allen Checkpoints vorbei in eine der verwüsteten Gebiete rund um Damaskus zu schleusen verspricht. Auf einer mehrspurigen Straße, an der rechter Hand zerstörte Häuser zu sehen sind, fahren wir auf den Standstreifen und biegen auf ein müllübersätes Feld ab. Unser Taxi ist nicht das einzige Auto, das sich über das ziemlich unebene Gelände müht, und es ist auch nicht dunkel, sondern helllichter Tag. Der kleine Pendelverkehr zwischen Krieg und Frieden scheint also hingenommen zu werden.
Grad u koji smo stigli na prvi pogled djeluje pusto. Zidovi višekatnica prepuni su rupa od projektila većeg i manjeg kalibra. Gotovo nijedan prozor nije čitav, na betonu su rasute krhotine, stakla, čahura, razbacan otpad. Vidljivi su tragovi tenkova, rešetka starolov vrata trgovina spuštena su i djelomično iskrivljena, pa se može vidjeti unutra sav inventar opljačkan i opustošen. Vjerojatno su i psi lutalice pronašli nešto za sebe. Prošavši četvrto križanje, ipak uočavamo nekolicinu ljudi, prvo ženu s dvijema vrećama, jednu ulicu dalje i djecu. Prolazimo pored nizova kuća koje djeluju kao da se u njima živi. Uglje se suši na balkonu, pred jednom se pekarom stvori omanji red, tu i tamo vidimo pokojega uličnog trgovca voćem ili živežnim namirnicama. Onda opet stotine metara potpune tišine. Neobično je stanje i sa strujom, većina je očito nema, ali onda prolazimo kroz ulicu u kojoj usred bijela dana svjetle ulične svjetiljke. Obilazim izgorjelu bolnicu, tražim ulaze, u pokrajnjoj ulici nailazim na znak za ginekološku ordinaciju. Spuštam se niz nekoliko stuba i na jednom se nađem licem u lice s nekoliko muškaraca i žena u zelenim kutama, prekrivenima prašinom i čađom, koji se doimaju jednako prestrašeni kao i ja. Predstavljam se i upitam ih, smijem li pogledati bolnicu? Jedna liječnica okljeva nekoliko sekundi pogledavajući svoje kolege, onda im kimne u silno tužan izraz lica. Smijem li dovesti i fotografa, pita. Liječnica okljeva, ogledava se i konačno izjavljuje u redu. Izlazi sa mnom na ulicu da bi vozaču pokazala gdje može neprimjećeno parkirati. Potom nas vodi mračnim hodnicima u kojima je voda do gležnjeva, a strujni kablovi vise sa stropa. Vratili su se tek par dana ranije da bi koliko toliko raščistili, objašnjava mi liječnica. Po svemu sudeći, napadači su češljali hodnike u svaku liječničku sobu, bolesničku sobu i sobu za obradu ubacivali zapaljive bombe ili nešto slično, ali očito ne obične granate, jer čađevi zidovi ipak nisu porušeni. Prozorska su stakla smrskana, cjelokupan inventar pougljen do samih željeznih stalaka, od bolesničkih kreveta, invalidska kolica i ležava ostala je samo kost. Tada me vodi na jedinicu intenzivnog liječenja koja se nalazi na najvišem katu. Imali su trojicu pacijenata koje nisu mogli iznijeti iz bolnice, dvojicu staraca i jednog dječaka. S njima je ostao njegovatelj koji ih je odbio ostaviti. Ulazimo na odjel koji se nekoć sastojao od 4 postelja s pripadajućim uređajima. Postelje su visoko podignute, sačuvane su kućišta uređaja. Liječnica nam ne mora pokazivati ono što vidimo i sami. Na 3 naslonima, točno u visini glava, vidljive su rupe od mnogobrojnih metaka, kako iz pištolja, tako iz pušaka, da budem precizniji, kalašnikova koji su probili postelje i završili u zidu. Ispod kreveta, također u razini glave, osušene su lokve krvi. U prostoriji nema drugih rupa od metaka, ovdje nije bilo borbe, ovi meci ispaljeni su ciljano i isključivo u naslone bolničkih postelja u razini glave. Samo još na jednom mjestu vidimo metke u zidu i skorenu krv na podu, tamo gdje je očito stajao njegovatelj. Je li moguće da je scena namještena? Na ovu bolnicu nabasili smo sasvim slučajno, nitko nije mogao računati s našim posjetom ovom za posjetitelje zatvorenog područja. Razvidno je da su liječnici, sestre i njegovatelji tek započeli s raščišćavanjem, a na licima im se iščitavao istinski šok. Smijemo li izvijestiti o onome što smo vidjeli? Smijemo li fotografirati jedinicu intenzivnog liječenja? Još jedno bih pitam. Moram pitati ravnatelja bolnice, odgovara liječnica koja se u svojoj nervozi nema kome obratiti za savjet. Stiže. Kaže nakon što je završila telefonski razgovor s ravnateljem. Ali ravnatelj ne dolazi ni nakon drugog poziva. Nakon 3. liječnica nas u dubok uzdah obavještava da ravnatelj ipak neće doći. Rečeno mu je da će svi završiti mrtvi ako se sazna za tu jedinicu intenzivnog liječenja. Posavjetovavši se s kolegama koji su ušli u sobu, liječnica na koncu fotografu Kaju daje privolu za fotografiranje, čak i naslona kreveta. Jednom će postojati neki sud koji će sagledati ove dokaze, tumačenja. Daj Bože da to ne bude posljednji sud, uzreče mi liječnica. Kaj fotografije nije objavio, a u opisu mjesta ja sam izmijenio neke detalje tako da se bolnicu ne može odmah identificirati. Precizne podatke sa slikama predali smo jednoj nadležnoj instituciji. O tome najvjerojatnije izvještavam samo zato što su organizacije za ljudska prava već prikupile brojne svjedočanstva o bombardiranim, opustošenim i zapaljenim bolnicama, ali i o pacijentima ubijenima u bolničkim posteljama. No čitatelj će mi povjerovati na riječ. Nije svejedno čitali se o naslovima ili kada ih vidiš vlastitim očima. Before we continue with Europe, this basically can be a line to talk about justice in today's world, inequalities in today's world, and us and them. Because they say we in Europe have the rule of law, and we have international mechanisms that are supposed to handle this kind of crimes that happened in Syria and all the, from former Yugoslavia and all the conflicts in the world. So is there, in terms of justice, universalism, or is universalism at all something that is just some idea that never lived its life?
Well, people believe in this universalism, and we have mechanisms like we have Den Haag, we have the Declaration of Human Rights, we have the United Nations, we have the outlines, the ideas of the European Union, which are on the same lines, basic. So the ideas are there. People, they applied to it when the people were marching in Syria. As you remember, when they were marching in Bucharest against Ceausescu, they were screaming, "Europe is with us! Europe is with us!" When when Ceausescu, the Securitate was shooting them. So Europe was not there. Europe was the ideas. Nobody was there. It was just the ideas were with them. So yes, the ideas are there, but we have a strong problem of application. I mean, and especially in the Syrian conflict, it's. I think Europe has failed in a dramatic way. We have several wars in the outskirts of Europe. We have the Afghan war, which was started with Russia in '79. And we have the Iraq War, which was started with the United States in 2003. And the east part of Europe said we don't go in, which was right at the time. We have Libya, got more complicated. But anyway, you know, because there was a movement of Gaddafi to really kill lots of people, on the other side we know it was only a reason for Sarkozy and Tony Blair to go into the country. And we know now why Sarkozy wanted to go into the country, because he had very, very dark and dirty bills to handle with Gaddafi. But the result was that we have 3 collapsed states: Afghanistan, Iraq, and Libya. But it was not Europe really. I mean, even in Libya, Germany didn't support it. They didn't opt it, so it was divided. But Syria, the fourth war, the fourth collapsed state now, the fourth zone where there's no rule now. Europe was responsible directly. And there was